again. Hey everyone, and welcome again to the chat. When we raise our bat, we usually do that when we raise 100 in cricket. But today I'm going to speak to a jockey who has recorded 100 winners for the first time in New South Wales. And joining me today is leading Sydney jockey in Rachel King. Hi Rachel, how are you today?
Hi Ben, yeah, good, thank you.
First of all, great to have you on. It's been a while to try and get you on, but thanks to Mel Weatherly, you've been able to come on and have a chat.
Yeah, it's good. It's great to be on here, and obviously just recently signed up with Mel Weatherly and her company More Than Management, so they're helping you guys out, I guess, and getting me into doing more of these sort of publicity things.
And you rode 100 winners for the first time in New South Wales yesterday with your ride on Tangier at Wyong yesterday. Did you look to try and get 100 winners at the start of the 2020-2021 racing season?
Look, it wasn't something I'd really sort of aimed for, but I guess it's great that it's come along, and I think I rode 88, my best sort of before this season, so I was keen to get more than that. Getting the 100 was a bonus. I know my dad was keen for me to get 100. He kept reminding me, but it was really great to get that milestone, and especially doing it in the Godolphin colours, who have been such a support for me, the whole way through this season.
And you mentioned Godolphin being big supporters of yours. How did that come about? Every couple of meetings, I seem to see R. King on the form guide riding for James Cummings.
Yeah, so I remember my first ride for them was actually in an apprentice race at Warwick Farm. It actually ended up being a winner, which was great. So I got off to a good start, and look, just from there, that was probably my last, probably about 6 months before my apprenticeship ended. So they were really good to me in that last sort of 6 months or so, put me on a lot while I was still an apprentice, and I had no claim as well. So it was a big compliment for them to put me on. And as soon as my time was finished, I started riding work there sort of once a week, and have continued to do that, the whole way through. And I've showed that bit of loyalty to James and the team, and he's definitely repaid me.
And I hear a tiny little bit of a Pommy accent still. Obviously, you're originally from the UK. Tell us, how did you end up in Australia and starting your apprenticeship with the one and only Gai Waterhouse?
Yeah, so I started off riding just mainly as an amateur over in the UK, and rode a lot over jumps, believe it or not, for my size, but it's something I really enjoyed doing, and gave me a good grounding, definitely. And like a typical kind of story, really. I came to Australia to do the whole sort of working holiday experience, see how that goes, and was only ever going to be here for 2 months. That was sort of the original plan. But once I came here and realised probably a lot more opportunities here for jockeys, and especially for girls, I thought, well, I'll give it a go and see what happens. And yeah, just asked Gai for a job, really. Didn't really know any different. So I thought, well, I'll go to the top and ask her and see if I start there. And I probably worked about 12 months for Gai before I started actually race riding. So I got a really good grounding, was able to sort of learn a lot about the industry, learn a lot about Australian racing before I actually got out there and started to ride.
You talk about opportunities. I've read a couple of stories. You were grinding away on that country circuit for a while in New South Wales. When did you feel you finally felt like you'd made it and you were one of the leading jockeys in the metropolitan ranks? Because it takes a long time to start in the country and sort of, go work hard and then finally get that regular book of rides on a Saturday, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. Probably, I guess, winning the Apprentice Premiership in Sydney was definitely a sort of defining moment. That season was fantastic. I realised I had a lot of support, and as I said before, I spent the last 6 months of my apprenticeship with no claim. So it was hard, but it was a bit of a test, I guess, to see where it was going to go once I came out of my time, if I was going to continue to get that support. And look, I was very lucky. It didn't stop at all. It didn't slacken by any means. And a few months later, I managed to ride my first Group 1 winner as well. So it all sort of happened in that 12 months, I guess, which was sort of back in 2018. And that's when I feel like I probably started to at least establish myself as a regular in the Sydney Jockeys Room.
And tell me about that day when you rode Maid of Heaven, your first Group 1 winner for Mark Newham, who was working at Gai's when you started your apprenticeship, I believe.
Yeah, Mark's always been a huge help for me. He helped me sort of getting my licence and things like that at Gai's. He was a big support of mine right from the start. And then when he started training, I obviously was very keen to start sort of riding for him as much as possible. And we just had a really good association, and actually sort of came by a bit of chance, really. James McDonald had ridden Maid of Heaven the start before, and she was backing up a week later, and it was never really the sort of set plan to back her up, but she actually was very unlucky the week before and never got out. So she had a very easy run and looked like she should have probably been the winner. So come Wednesday, look, Mark decided he would accept with her for the spring champion, and that's when sort of the ride came about. No one was actually booked for the horse. So luckily I've been riding a lot of work for Mark and had a few winners for him, and I'd ridden her track work, so I did know the horse, and he was quite happy to put me on. So it was a little bit of a sort of by chance, I guess, but a nice fairy tale in the end.
And obviously, Mark, having previously been a jockey, is he someone that you do lean on still even to this day for advice with your riding?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I still ride work for Mark sort of on 2 days a week, and we always, probably spend more time talking than we do doing much work. And, would always go to Mark for sort of any advice, especially with the riding and things. And, he's great to sort of watch a replay with and things like that. And still, a huge supporter of mine. So we're good friends as well as sort of, work well alongside each other as well.
You had a big morning this morning riding quite a few trials. I had to look up on Riser before I jumped on the computer to have a chat with you today. Typically, what is a week for Rachel King involved? Obviously, you usually have races Wednesday, Saturday, and you have trials some mornings as well, and track work too?
Yeah, so I do track work 3 mornings a week. I do a Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. And then obviously city races Wednesday, Saturday. And then there's probably a couple of provincial meetings in there as well, maybe a Tuesday and a Thursday. And then obviously trials, probably a Monday and a Friday. So that kind of takes up my week, really. I don't get many days off. It's nice to have a Sunday off here and there, but most of the time it's either track work or trials in the morning, and then races of sort of 3 or 4 days a week.
I was seeing your spare time on Instagram all the time. You and your partner Blake, you love to go walking your dogs. Is that one thing you like to do in your spare time, or what else do you like to do?
Yeah, we've got 2 border collies, so they probably take up most of our spare time, to be honest. We don't get much time apart from that, but they're a really good distraction. They're great to sort of have away from the racing. We always say that they're so good to come home to, because you could have had the worst day at the races, or you could have had the best day, and you still get the best greeting from them. So they're really good to come home to every day, and they're good sort of support partners for us both.
Tell me, how did you meet your partner in Blake Spriggs, who's also a jockey?
Just through racing, really, going to the races together and things like that. And I guess it's hard to meet people outside of racing, but look, we've got a very good relationship. We get on really well, sort of away from the racing, which is, I think, very important. We're good at coming home and not talking about racing constantly, which I think some people could sort of get a bit involved in that. So we're very sort of we really push that. We don't want to let it take over our lives as such. We will have a chat about it, but we also, have our own lives outside of the racing world. What
do you think it is that, as a female rider, allows you to be, and I've noticed this with the likes of Jamie Carr too, just so patient aboard horses? And you guys are just making waves all over Australia. Of course, you've got Jamie Carr, Jess Eaton, and there's a number of girls in Queensland too. They're really just taking it by the scruff of the neck, and they just keep riding winner after winner. And it's just like now you guys are finally being accepted as riders, not females.
Yeah, look, it's a huge leap forward, and that was sort of one of the main things that made me stay in Australia, to be honest, was how forward the Australian racing is with the female riders. As you said, we're just thought of as riders. We're not necessarily the females anymore, which is great. And I think, obviously girls have their advantages and the boys have their advantages as well when they're riding horses. But I think we do generally get on with those sort of kind of tricky horses quite well. Like you said, those ones that you've got to be a little bit patient with and things like that. But look, there's certainly a jockey for every horse, and not saying a girl can ride everyone, and the same with sort of the boys. There's certain horses that will always run better for different people. But I guess it's something, we're not quite technically as big and strong as the boys, so we've got to find our other advantages, which are sort of staying calm, staying balanced, staying in rhythm with horses, things like that. So I think we're all just learning how to really play on our strengths.
Talk about calm and balanced. Is there any particular younger jockeys coming through the ranks in New South Wales that those of us in the rest of Australia, we wouldn't usually get to see them, that we should keep an eye on moving forward?
There's a few sort of young apprentices coming through at the moment. Probably one I'd keep an eye out is CJ Graham. She's a really good apprentice. I think she's had really bad luck at the moment with an injury, but she's very young. She's got to have 12 months off, which is a shame. But like I said, she's very, very young. She's really well balanced on a horse. She's come from a really good racing family. She was obviously apprenticed to Peter and Paul Snowden. They were happy to put her on and give her plenty of rides and winners, and she's proven herself. She was riding winners for Chris Waller before she got injured. good. So look, I think she'll bounce back very quickly, and she's a natural lightweight as well, which is going to really help her in the long run. So I think she's one to look out for. You
were saying before, when you were younger as an amateur back in the UK, you rode over the jumps. Was it something that you'd consider doing here in Australia when you first came here? Obviously, we only have them in Victoria and South Australia these days.
Probably not, to be honest. I'd sort of have my bit of fun, I guess, over the jumps. It was something that was only ever going to be fun. It wasn't really going to be something I was going to take all the way forward and have a real sort of crack at professionally. But like I said, I had great fun. It gave me a really good experience, and it gave me a really good grounding. I think that's probably what taught me how to ride like I do. It teaches you balance. Obviously, it teaches you a bit of patience, being able to ride over longer trips and things like that. So it's something I definitely don't regret. But I kind of had my fun and ready to focus on the flat racing now.
But if you look over in the UK, just look at the success recently of Rachel Blackmore. She's taken all before her, hasn't she?
Oh, she's been sensational. Yeah, it's really good to see the girls coming through in the jumps racing, because it is tough. Look at I had my fair share of falls over there, and they're not easy to take. But she's unbelievable. Watching her at Cheltenham, I think there was a day when she had 2 or 3 falls, and they were crunches as well, every single one of them, and then got up and rode a winner. Not many boys can do that. So she's doing a fantastic job, and she's proving she's just as fit and just as tough as anyone else out there.
Okay, Rachel, thanks very much for joining me today, giving me an insight into your background growing up in England and your current career in Sydney.
No problem at all. Nice to be here.